When people say real estate investing, I didn't realize that it meant many things. Like I thought I knew everything. I thought, hey, I own a handful of properties. I'm good, right? I just didn't know like how much there was that you could do. For a while, like I started thinking like, oh man, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do it. But there's such a difference between like loving to do something and actually doing it. I've kind of learned over the years that for me, the cash flow actually feels good, and the cash flow is what gives me a lot of flexibility and freedom.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Weather Report. I'm with the amazing and talented Gregory Tran. Good morning. How are you?
Good, doing amazing.
All right. So a quick look at the socials makes it very clear, right, that you are a realtor, right? You're an adventure dad, you're a foodie, but where I wanted to begin was what in the world you had to do to finish the New York Marathon in roughly 3 hours. I think a 3:01 time. Did I get that right?
Yeah, yeah. Do you run?
I do run, and when I finish a marathon, I look like I just got pulled backwards out of the ocean. And I saw the photo of you in the New York Marathon, the radiant smile cruising down the streets. I thought that's the way I want to look when I run, not like I'm dying on the road. So, what's the secret?
You know what? If it was a photo of me smiling, I think I know the one you're talking about, and that one was earlier in the race. You
Okay,
know that was maybe 10 miles in. At mile 25, it may have looked a little bit different.
they look different. Got it. I loved that photo though. That felt to me like somebody who is truly enjoying this moment of competition. And as a runner, I thought that was really cool. So yeah.
You know, I really was. I mean, that's a race that I've wanted to do for a long, long time,
Yeah.
and to finally be able to do it and for it to be everything that I wanted it to be was it's something special.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, so the reason we're here, right, is to talk about real estate, talk about investing, and we'll get into all of those details. But when I was looking I was reading the National Association of Realtors, the buyers and home sellers report, whatnot. One of the things that struck me was that an average realtor in the United States, roughly speaking, is a 57-year-old suburban woman. And neither one of us, I'm a whole lot closer to 57 than you are, and neither one of us is a suburban woman. How in the world did you end up in real estate? How did you get started in this career?
It's really funny that you say that. I'll come back to it, but the reason I got into this was really never to sell. I've never thought of myself as the type of person who could or would sell. You know, I didn't know it back then, but
Okay.
I've certainly figured out now that I'm a somewhat of a shy introvert. So God, I never
Uh-huh.
would have done that. The reason I got a license is that I wanted to start buying investment properties, and I had done that
Okay.
with some realtors. And what I'll say is that there came a point where I just got the license because I thought it would be easier if I could go show myself homes. That's really the only reason that I got a real
Okay.
estate license. It's what
Got it.
happened next that kind of got me to where I am now. And you know, like I signed up with a KW office. It wasn't. I didn't do any research. I just heard someone had done that, so that's what I did. And at the office, I went to
Uh-huh.
one of those panels that they do where people talk about their business. And I just remember this one guy talking about this business he had, and I can't remember. He had like agents. They were sending out like 50,000 flyers a month, something crazy like that, right? And it was eye opening
Yeah.
to me because I didn't realize that you could do that as a real estate agent. What I had in my mind was a real estate agent was exactly what you mentioned. I thought it was a single older female driving around in like a Cutlass Sierra with manila folders all over the passenger seat. That's what I thought being a real estate agent was.
Yeah.
So when I understood that there are
Yeah.
other possibilities, that was the first time that I was like, maybe I will try, like, first of all, it sounds like something that I'd be interested in doing is building this business. But if I'm going to do that, I probably need
Yeah.
to like sell at least one or two homes. So somebody's going to want to work with me. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. That's the only reason I ever tried to sell a home.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. And for the folks who don't know your success, you are number one single agent in Southwest Market Center, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In Austin, Texas. Yeah.
In Austin, Texas. Yep. Roughly speaking, what's a typical year for you look like in either in terms of units or total sales volume? What's normal?
The units has been somewhat consistent. Like, it's probably around like
Yeah.
60-ish units a year has gone, it was certainly higher in the previous few years. And,
Mhm.
GCI wise, I'd say it was also higher in those previous couple years,
Yeah.
towing just shy of 1 million, and I've probably pulled back, you know, 40% since then. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's still decent living.
Still decent living. Still, so a house a week, Gary Keller's top 100, top agent mastermind as an accidental career because you wanted to go do your own investments.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
exactly.
That's really cool. Okay, so we can talk about real estate all day, but I did want to kind of transition to, and we're here because at Mega Camp in August, in August of 2024, whenever you're watching this interview, one of the things that I do at an event like Mega Camp is ask people who they would like to hear more from. And a mutual friend of ours, Justin Himmelbaum, had said that you were doing really interesting things on the finance side. You're spending even more and more time digging into the investment world again. Let's just open that up. First, maybe you can share a little bit about what you are doing on the investment side as a lender, as a financer of projects.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe even before I get into that, I mean, what I'll tell you is once again, like when I got into real estate, it wasn't to sell homes. Like I didn't see it as a career. I didn't understand that that was a thing.
Yeah.
The only reason I got into it was probably 10 years before this when I was completely broke and in a backyard in Brooklyn somewhere. I read this book, which is, very common, but it was that Rich Dad Poor Dad book, right? And at the
Oh yeah.
time I had only had kind of normal jobs. I used to be in tech a little bit after graduating from college, and honestly wasn't that happy. And then I read that book, and it just kind of opened my eyes to what this world could be. And that book talked a lot about investment, real estate, cash flow, all of those things. So that was something that I was trying to do for a while. I'll say that from the time I actually read the book to when I actually got my
Mhm.
first investment property was probably 10 years. Actually, yeah, maybe even longer. Like it took me a while before I finally got there to where I could get an investment property, right? But but it was always with this dream of, oh man, I'm gonna be able to create this cash flow. I'm gonna be able to make $300 a month from some house I buy, and if I buy a lot of them, then one day I can have cash flow and not have to work. My aim of working has always been to not work, so it's kind of
Yeah.
it's kind of backwards, but that's what it is. So so I'll say for a long time,
Yeah.
I kind of half-ass did that. Like I would buy a home here, buy a home there. I'd get busy with real estate for a few years because it was such a struggle to learn how to do this. And then I'd be like, oh man, like I haven't bought anything in a while, but that's what I was supposed to be doing in the first place. I go buy another home. So it was totally random, not intentional at all until the
Yeah.
last few years when I really decided to put time and energy into learning all the different sides of this craft. Like when people say real estate investing, I didn't realize that it meant many things.
Yeah.
Like I thought I knew everything. I thought, hey, I own a handful of properties, I'm good, right? I just didn't know like how much there was that you could do. So that's all to kind of preface the fact that I have in the last maybe 18 months or so gotten into something called private lending, hard money lending, whatever you want to call it. But I'm sure you know what it is, but everyone who goes out there
Yeah.
and wants to flip a property needs money to buy the house, needs
Mhm.
money to rehab the house. Most of the time, they're not sitting on a big wad of cash to do it themselves, so they're going to borrow money to do it. And those are the type of loans that I've been making to people.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. I knew this was going to be a fun conversation when I read this. And this is something that you shared Facebook or Instagram or something. I never remember my dreams, but yesterday all I dreamt about was rate spreads, sweep accounts, and cash flow calculations. Am I sick in the head? I thought that's somebody who's going all in on becoming a master of this part of the real estate craft, of this side of the business. That was really funny.
Yeah, it's completely true too. I that's I never remember my dreams, man, but that day I did.
So, okay, so where did you start? So let's rewind the tape a little bit. You said you spent time learning.
Hmm.
Where did you begin? What was the first thing you wanted before you started lending? What did you feel like you wanted to learn first?
I didn't even know. Well, once again, I think my entire life has been a series of I thought I knew everything, and then by accident I figured out that I knew nothing. It was never like me
Yeah.
intentionally going out and seeking something. Once again, like I thought I was good. I thought if I just kept doing what I was doing, that things would change. Of
Yeah.
course, the market a few years ago started changing to where that kind of I don't want to call it old school, but like the traditional model of buy a home, cash flow $300 a month, do it a lot of times. It just became much harder with, prices going up, interest rates, like even before interest rates going up, just the prices going up, like
Yeah.
made it harder to do that, right? And really,
That's
I have
right.
to give all credit to my
Mhm.
MAPS coach. When I started working with her a few years ago, we did talk a little bit about what I
Mhm.
wanted, but it wasn't that much yet. But it was at some point in our coaching relationship that she's like, look, you want this thing, like
Mhm.
you should make moves to get there. And but I'm like, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I can't buy anything. Numbers don't work. And so she, like, I don't know. She started telling me to read
Mhm.
books, right? She's like, read this book, Lifestyle Investor.
Mhm.
So I read that book and I was like, whoa, there's like a lot of stuff in here that I've never heard about. So like I read that, I
Yeah.
read other books. I ended up joining the Lifestyle Investor Mastermind. My coach was involved with KW Wealth when it was
Yeah.
starting. So I've been involved with that community too. And I'd say there was like a
Okay.
solid year of me just learning all this stuff that I didn't know existed before before I could really
Mhm.
like start doing things more than like onesie twosie. Like I was certainly doing things, like everything I
Mhm.
heard of that was cool. I'd be like, let me try that. Let me try doing
Mhm.
this. Let me try doing that. And I still felt like I was lost, right? Like because when you're just doing like one this kind of deal and one that kind of deal, it just it's kind of random. But I didn't realize what it was
Mhm.
it was just taking it. It just takes me a lot of time to kind of figure out what I want to do or what feels good to me. And that's what kind of led me to where it was here. I didn't start this on my own. It was someone else planting the seed in my head.
Yeah. The getting started piece, let me back up. I think the getting started piece feels like the hardest
Yeah,
step, right? The first call of the day is
yeah,
the hardest. The phone feels the heaviest. You make the second call, it's a little easier. The first investment feels like the
yeah.
difficult one. You learn something, the second one feels a little easier. Was there a trigger for you that got you over that first hump?
For the lending.
For the lending or for the investing side? Yeah, either one.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there a moment where you said, "No, I've just gotta take action now. I'm ready. I'm gonna act now." Was there a trigger for you?
For the lending, there was a couple of like lead-in kind of warm-up things. Like when I was part of this
Yeah.
one mastermind, there's a guy that I was talking to for a while who was telling me about this lending business that he did, and it was all his own money, and he was telling me he had a book of like $5 million, and basically he just kept loaning that out, hard money lending, and he was doing it at such a high
Yep.
level that he was annualizing 20% on that money. And I was just like,
Wow.
huh, you know, you don't have to be that good at math to do those calculations, right? Like this guy's making $1 million a year
Yeah.
just lending money. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, like I just decided to move to this state for 6 months, and I did this and that. And when I heard that, I was just like, wow, that's like it. It was really crazy to me. So
Yeah.
that's one of the warm up things to even know that there are people like that doing that kind of thing and living that kind of life. The second was Brett Tanner
Yep.
of the KW world. He talked about this kind of stuff a lot. So that kind of helped things gel in my mind. And it was one of those things where for a while, like I started thinking like, oh man, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do it. But there's such a difference between like
Yeah.
loving to do something and actually doing it, you know? So the thing that actually got me to do it, once again, it kind of fell in my lap. There's an agent that that reached out to me and said that, they were looking for, I didn't even understand what they were asking for. They were asking for like a lender, but like non-conventional, and they said they reached out to me because they knew I was involved in the wealth world. And I was like, well, I don't know. Is it like maybe you can try one of those DSCR lenders, or one of these? I don't know. Like I don't know what you call it. The where you don't have any docs, like no doc lenders. Like I had no idea what
Yeah,
she was
no doubt.
talking
Yeah.
about, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I thought she was asking about. And then after the phone call, I was like, wait, I think maybe they're just trying to ask to borrow money, and then I was like, maybe that's something I can do. And then so I called back, and then I asked a few more questions, and I was like, huh, this at the time, like I think they were looking for something small, maybe we'll call it $60,000, 60 or
Yeah.
$80,000. And and it was a second lien deal. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, that it seems like there's plenty of equity left in this home. Seems like a good deal.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
so I reached out to Brett, and I'm like, hey man, like this thing kind of fell in my lap.
Mhm.
What do you think? And he sent me back like 3 points that I should consider. And
Yeah.
and none of those involved actually doing this how I had promised this person I would do it. And
Yeah.
so I was like, man, like I know he's smarter than me, but I really want to do this, and it's not that much money, maybe I should do it. But I started like researching all these things, and eventually I kind of like I understood a little more what he was talking about. But like one of the options that he had told me
Yeah.
was, hey, it might be better instead of doing like this small second lien, if you can, to refi out the entire loan that they're in. And that way you go into first position.
Mhm.
So first position is a lot safer than second position.
Fun.
I've learned, and that sounded cool to me because all of a
Yep.
sudden you're going from like a loan of this size to a loan of this size, right? And then so I thought, hey, let me do this. So I went back to them,
Yeah.
kind of proposed that. I won't go into all the details, but that's how I ended up doing my very first loan
Mhm.
of this size.
Okay, got it. First of all, how do you choose project now? Let's assume someone else is says, I want to follow this pattern. I'm going to follow this model. I'm going to learn. I'm going to study. I'm going to hope that I'm going to get right. The harder I work, the luckier I get. That sounds a little bit like your story, right? Hard work up front turns into an awareness of opportunities. So let's assume someone is there in their at their phase in their stage. But how do you choose this project versus that project today?
So I don't go out there really looking for, and okay, let me take a step back. I started with one, and then like it was a pretty slow build,
Yep.
like because with one, like I was comfortable with that one. I wasn't comfortable with this yet, right? So it was kind of a slow build. Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I wasn't lead genning for for people to let borrow money. I talked to some random people
Okay.
on like some Facebook groups, talked to some other people I know, but I wasn't really seeking that kind of stuff. But I think what happened is I was talking to a lot of people about this stuff, asking a lot of people about it, and like I even got to talk at a few like Pride Family Reunion and some other
Yeah.
events. So people just started hearing that I was doing these things. So then people, mostly people
Mhm.
that I already had relationships with, started reaching out to ask about certain deals. And depending on the deals, I
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I can do this, or no, I can't do this.
So word of mouth
Yeah,
became that was the initial lead gen strategy was word of mouth.
yeah. And once again, it's that wasn't like the
Yeah.
strategy. That's just how it happened. Like we're
Yeah.
we're lucky to be in this company where it seems like everyone is super collaborative and just wants everyone else to succeed. So like I'm not very
Yeah.
good at like going to an event and having like a point of it, or having a mission. I kind of just go and try to meet people and find out who I jive with and who's doing cool stuff. And I found that works a lot better
Yeah.
for me than going and looking for the specific thing, because then I get to meet a
Okay.
much you know different crew of
Yeah.
people.
Different group of people. Yeah, absolutely. So talk me through the mechanics
Sure.
of how you decide whether a project for you is a go or a no go. So I
Yeah.
approach you and I say, I've got this idea. I'm doing this flip. I'm doing this rehab. What do you need from me? It's like talk me through the math of it.
Yeah, so the most important thing for me is going to be the LTV. So
Okay.
loan to value. Let's just pretend
Yeah.
that this is the simplest deal ever. You just, you want to buy this home. You don't need money for rehab. It's gonna be short term. You plan
Mhm.
to get it done in 4 or 5 months. What I'm looking for
Mhm.
is what's the right now value of that home. Like not once again, in the simplest
Yeah.
of cases, not the after repair value, but like what's it worth right now? Like if I was gonna throw it on the MLS right now,
Yep.
what would we get for it? Say that's like $500,000, right? For right now
Yeah.
value, then I'd say like bare minimum, I would
Mhm.
need at least like 20%. Like a 20% buffer. So loaning up to 80% of that. So
80.
so 400,000.
Got it.
I'll tell you that that's not my ideal. Like I'd much prefer to be at 70%.
Okay.
So I prefer to be much lower, but sometimes it depends on like the person or the situation. Like if you look at a
Mhm.
house that's worth like you think it's worth $500, but it's still completely crapped out, like not in good condition, needs a lot of work, versus something that's maybe already completed, ready to go, and I think that's worth five hundred thousand
Mhm.
dollars. That's a very different prospect, right? Like I think one's a
Sure,
lot
sure.
less riskier than the other one, so like
Okay.
I might be okay, like going to like the top of the range for something like that. Versus if it needs a lot of work, I might be coming down a little bit.
Yeah.
Or there's just a
Yeah.
lot of different factors that I'm just weighing in my head and trying to come up with an overall risk profile for it.
Yeah. But you're gonna start with the current, not the ARV. You're gonna start with current as is value.
That would be the simplest deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can do deals based on ARV, and I started doing that, but it was about a year before I did my first one that was based off an ARV and not just the right now value.
Okay. Okay. So let's assume we've got a $500,000 right now value, and we hope what's
Yeah.
seven, 800,000, whatever, ARV, something like that. And I come to you and I say, all
Yeah.
right, here's the project. We make the numbers work. I'm looking for 400 on this thing that's street value is 500. How are you thinking about interest rates, or how do you set up the rate of return you expect on that on the additional money?
I've been defaulting to an average loan for me would be 2 points
Okay.
up front and 12% interest. And for something like that, that would probably be an
Yeah.
average-ish loan. I've done ones that are much smaller, and if they're much smaller, I will usually up the percentage of the
Points up front.
like the points. It may be multiple. Like let's
Yeah.
say it's like an $80,000 loan, right? Like I may do much more than two because like $1,600
Mhm.
is not a lot, right? So you'd
Mhm.
probably up that a little bit. If it's a first or second lien, you might like up the percentage of that you're charging for it. It might go from like 12 to
Mhm.
16 or to 18. But it's once again, it's a calculation of how risky and how worth it
Yeah.
is it.
Is your goal as a private lender, is your goal to hold these notes? Is it a quick turn? How do you think about, because there's risk and then there's risk over time, right? Too. There's the adjustment of time. How do you think about time as a calculus in your decisions?
I want these to be short-term loans. I greatly prefer them
Okay.
to be like 4 months. Most of the time they're like
Got it.
6, but the shorter the better, right? It's nicer to get it out and get it back. I am holding these notes. The idea
Yeah.
is to generate that cash
Yeah.
flow. I'm not selling these notes off. Like I know some people will, but I don't know. Like I mean, it's just a couple months. Like I don't need the cash back to turn like that quickly.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's some people's model is to like to get the loan, sell the note off at a low discount, and then turn it back out there.
Yeah.
Mine isn't.
There's not. Okay.
I'm yeah. I'm not looking for maximum. I'm not looking for maximum dollars. I'm looking for a balance of cash flow versus work.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. As you're thinking about, let's say that is you are you how many projects will you have going at one time? Are you a few at a time? What's the way to minimize risk is to diversify, right? So
Yeah, right now is the most I've ever had at one
okay.
time. I'll say
Yeah.
that. It's I'm a little nervous,
Yeah.
but I think I get nervous on everything. So that's not
Yeah.
uncommon. But yeah, right now is definitely the most I've ever had. I've got eight
Investors in
loans to
it. Okay.
8 different investors right
Got
now,
it. Got it.
outstanding. Yeah,
What's next? Where do you see the lending business for you going? What's the future?
I'm trying to figure that out a little bit. the vision I'd come up with is that I would also build this large chunk of cash that I could lend out all the time and just not have to work. You know, of course I probably still would do some kind of work, but
Yep.
I like knowing that I don't need to, right? So so what my vision became is to where, you know, we're real estate agents. We have all these different businesses, right? For most of us, the main business is selling homes,
Mhm.
or even if you like flip a home, that's its own kind of business. But really, what how I see it is every business is only there to create the cash, and then take the cash and
Yeah.
then do something else with it that's going to create cash flow. So create cash, take the cash, create cash flow with that cash. Really,
Great cash flow.
I'm just looking for cash flow, just looking for cash flow.
Got it. I love that clarity, Gregory. I think that's really interesting. Like so many folks look to Warren Buffett,
Hmm.
like Warren Buffett's an amazing
Yeah.
investor and all of that, and that's true. But my favorite story about Warren Buffett is the reason he bought General Insurance Company,
Mm,
Geico, right? I mean, Geico was an ATM machine for
yeah.
him. So having owning an insurance company created an ATM that generated
Hmm.
cash that he could then go put into what he considered to be undervalued long-term
Yeah.
stock market holds. That same similar, he had different mission. He wasn't looking for cash flow on that stock, but he was looking for long-term rate of return. But
Yeah.
he bought a business that was spinning off cash
Yeah.
to do exactly what you just described.
That's something that I've found is that it's, you know, like people have this argument all the time, right? Cash flow versus like equity gain or
Equity gain.
net worth gain or however you want to put it. And I had always been on the cash flow side, and I never was never sure why, right? Like I just thought that that
Mhm.
was what we were supposed to do in the beginning. But I've kind of learned over the years that for me, the cash flow actually feels good, and the cash flow is what gives me a lot of flexibility and freedom. Most real estate agents had pretty good years in, what was that, 2020, 2021, maybe
Yeah.
2022. I don't know, or maybe 22 got rough. I can't remember. But like let's say 2023, right? Like
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't know how you guys did, but for me, my gross commission dollar went from this to like this in 1 year. But we're talking gross, right? Like
Yeah.
gross came down that much.
Yeah.
My expenses did
Yeah.
not come from here to here. My expenses went from here
Yeah.
to probably here, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So when you looked at it, like man, like when you looked at the gross numbers, it's like, hey, like that's pretty good, right? But then my net
Yeah.
numbers went from like this to like this,
Yeah.
and frankly, like I was lucky, like because I had things
Yeah.
that were already generating cash flow and were like doing these kind of things. If it wasn't for that, it would have been a very stressful, very hard to deal with, very rough year. I'm not a single dude with a tiny nut every month, right? Like I've got a family, I've
Yeah.
got kids. Everyone's used to like a certain way of living, and I
Sure.
would never want to be like, hey, we got to start like cutting back because daddy didn't do his lead gen, right?
Mac and cheese for everybody. Mac and cheese for everybody. Yeah.
Right? But like I was just so lucky to not have to do that because of these things that had happened for me, and it was because of the cash flow. You know, like frankly, like it didn't matter what the, you know, net worth number is going up and down, but like the net worth like doesn't pay the bills, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the cash flow that makes it so
Yeah.
you can pay that Amex bill, the or the, you know, your mortgage, or like
Yeah.
all those things. Like that's what I feel like really gives you safety. So, and until like I'm just super
Yeah.
comfortable, like, and it's on, you know, and it's like clockwork to get a, you know, we call it passive. We all know it's not really passive, but we'll call it semi-passive. But like until that number is in a
Yeah.
really good spot, like the other stuff, it will either take care of yourself, it will either take care of itself over time, or just, you know, it doesn't matter that much, I think, until you have that first step of getting that cash flow in the right place.
Getting the cash flow. I think that's such a great insight. I think it's really just the connection between the stress of cash versus not,
Yeah,
right? Versus cash flow, some sort of mailbox money, call it what you will,
yeah,
reducing that pressure that, right, from a coaching perspective, right? As a coach, just the emotional weight
yeah,
that
yeah,
cash, that a lack of cash causes is real, right? I mean, I see that I see that all the time. So, yeah. Where do you think people make mistakes when
Hmm.
they're beginning to go down, if they want to go down this path? They want to start to lend, they want to do
Yeah.
other things with their real estate skill other than transactional, selling homes. What are the mistakes you've seen?
Well, there's two, and they're of two extremes. I think the first one, I think the first place that people make the mistake is never getting started. I think that there's many people out there that hear about things like this, and they're like, man, that would be awesome, and they don't do it.
Mm,
Or like everyone, once again, like we're around so many people that do so many cool things, and you can spend all day learning about them, but at the end of the day, until you actually do something, you're never going to do more of it, right? So like you always have to take that first step, and I think that the majority of people, even for real estate agents, like aren't taking enough of those first steps to try things. What I would say the second mistake, which is kind of the opposite of that, is people getting too into something and then just like pushing too hard at it. I kind of take this parallel back to my previous life before real estate. I was a trader in New York for a long time, like 13 years or something. So I did it for a long time, and what I can say is I in this
mm,
time I was always kind of unhappy with myself because I would see other people that were just doing much better than me, man. They'd be making like 5, 10 times, 20 times what I was making. And I was doing fine, right? Like by any means, like I was doing all right. But I'd see that and be like, man, like why
mm,
can't I ever be like that dude that's like killing it? And the answer was always like, we always called each other pikers, right? That's like someone who like gets out early, or someone who's who's scared, like something like that. So we always used to call each other that, and that's what I just kind of always saw myself as, was that guy. Like
right.
I'm scared. I'm like scared to take risk, all of those things.
Yeah.
But then I think over the years I've kind of realized that that's also been something that has helped me be have a little more longevity in things, right? Like I never like I never get like the
Yeah.
highest highs, but what I found is a lot of those people who get those highest highs, they also get like there's a lot of amplitude. So those lows can be pretty low too. Like I'm always
Yeah.
afraid of risk of ruin. So I'm trying to always size my
Okay.
bets accordingly, and 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 I think that's something good to think of, because when you're dealing with these things, it's real money. So you have to be really cognizant of what's the downside risk here, what's the worst case scenario, because it can, the worst case scenario can happen. Like I found that it can happen. You just don't want,
Yeah.
like, it's okay if it happens. You just don't, like, it's okay to take hits. You just don't want to take you out of the game, right? Like I think that if you can just stay in the game
Yeah.
long term, then for most of us, you're going to be okay
Yeah.
long term, as long as you
Yeah.
stay alive.
That feels like a t-shirt, right? It's okay to take hits, just make sure they don't knock you out of the game.
Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty good words to live by. Yeah.
yeah. Or stay alive.
Stay alive. Even simpler.
Yeah,
Stay alive. Just stay
yeah.
alive. Yeah. I love it. I love it. All right. So if folks have questions, if they want to learn more from you, learn more about you, where can they connect with you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Facebook, it's easy, Gregory Tran. Instagram, I've got two of them. The work one, where I'm starting to do more stuff, it's Gregory Group TX. I actually I'm like a very terrible social media person. Like after we go to these events, I'm always like, man, I'm gonna post every day, and then and then I get like so motivated coming back from these things, and I post, and then 3 weeks later I think about posting, and realistically, like, I post like every few weeks, right? And it's not even real estate related. It has nothing to
Uh,
do with it most of the time. It's like what I actually am thinking about, which most of the time is not real estate.
Yep.
But something I just started a couple days ago on on the work Instagram, the Gregory TX one, is we just bought a house that we're flipping. And
Yeah.
like we're doing it as a team project. Like our people are kind of all involved in different ways in this project. And I was like, I'm gonna try to film this and like put it out there and make a bunch of posts about it. So that's something that I'm doing on there. I'm calling it the Flip Show, like to don't expect much of a show. It's like 60-second reels here and there, but I'll say I have posted online for 3 days in a row now, which is like a record for me.
A record.
Yeah. So if you want to follow somebody who is just beginning a social media journey, the work one is a good one, and my personal one is it's GR Gregory. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Perfect. I love it. Gregory Tran, thank you for the time. Good to be with you. If you got Austin, Texas referrals, send them his way. He's an amazing realtor, a really good investor, an even better runner, and a fantastic person. Gregory Tran. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
See you. Yep. Bye bye.